Okay, so this week we're going to do Miss Forster's cookies, quite famous throughout the department, so they apparently are fantastic. I've never made them, so I'm purely following the recipe, and the recipe would be available in the lockdown cookbook. So let's see how it goes, and this is what you'll need. Right, okay, so the first thing we've got to do is we've got to do what they call creaming the butter. And this is when we mix the butter with all the sugar. And there's quite a bit of sugar in this recipe, but then what's a cookie without lots of sugar? So I'm using the soft brown Mascafé sugar, and then I've got the white caster sugar, okay? So that's soft brown sugar and white caster sugar. Right, and then I'm going to mix that using the electric whisk, and this will help bind the ingredients. The sugar helps break up the butter and make it nice and soft and creamy. Right, so how do you know you're done? You know you're done because you can't see any lumps of butter in there, and essentially the butter has now taken on the colour of the soft brown sugar. So it's a really good way of telling whether you're actually done or not at that point. Now, it says to add the eggs one at a time, so we are going to crack those directly into our mixture, keeping with our usual trick, which is to hold the egg over, crack it in half with a spoon, and then break it into your mixture. So that's one egg. We'll mix that one in. So you can see we're starting to get that sort of biscuit batter look now. So we've got one more egg to put in. So again, smash it with the end of the spoon, give it a nice hard whack so you've got a good split, and then drop it in. Now I actually do have an escaped piece of shell there, so do watch out for those and make sure you get them out. Okay, nicely enough, it was a good sized piece to be able to grab hold of. Right, so again, right, so there we go. We can see it's now, and you can see also it's a lot runnier as a dough as well, so much more of a sort of cookie dough look to it now. Now need to do is we need to add in the flour, the bicarbonate soda, and because I've only got plain flour, I'm going to be using the baking powder as well. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to add in is the flour. Now I'm going to sieve the flour in, and this is just so that it's lighter. One bit of advice from Miss Forster is to not mix this too harshly from now on. So actually just sieving your flour will also keep that lightness in to the cookies. Okay, so whereas we've been able to be quite rough with it, giving it a really good whisk with the electric whisk to start off with, now we're trying to be a little bit more gentle with our mixture. So we keep all of that light softness into it. Now I've got quite a small sieve, so you can see I've just done the flour to start. Now it's really good to sieve in to make sure you mix in ingredients well. So because I've got to add baking powder to this, it needs to be 3 teaspoons. So I'm pretty sure I've got that within this little packet. 1, 2, 3. Good heat one for the last one, so that feels good. Great. And then bicarbonate of soda, we just want 1 teaspoon. So I'll move around so you can see. So you can see I'm just making sure that these go in on top of our mixture. Okay, so that's our bicarbonate of soda, 1 teaspoon. I'm sure there's a little bit extra that's gone over the edge of that teaspoon. And last but not least, we have our corn flour to go into this bit as well. So we can just place our corn flour in there too. And the good thing is then if you're sieving all of these ingredients in together, that will help mix them. So you'll end up with a nice even texture. I've just realised I've just missed one thing. So this is our half a teaspoon of salt. Now Mary Berry always says that's 12 grinds on the grinder, so I'm going to do 6 grinds for it. 12 grinds is a full teaspoon, so I'm going to do 6 for half a teaspoon. 4, 5, 6. There we go. Right. Now that should be it for those parts, and they can all go in. If you haven't got a sieve, you can just put them all straight in, because we're all going to get mixed in anyway. As I say, it's just my tip for treating it all a little bit more gently and making sure that it all mixes in well. Now my salt is a little bit large for my sieve, so I am actually going to just sprinkle that in over the top. There we go. Right, so these are our ingredients in. Now we can still whisk these in, but what we don't want to do is over whisk it, so we're just looking for it to bind. All right, so we're doing this quite gentle on quite a low level, and we just want this all to bind in together. So I'm happy that I can't see any flour in that, okay? And I made sure that I haven't gone so far that I've taken off all the flour from the edges, so you can see it's mixed there. And you could look underneath the bowl as well, just to check that you haven't got lumps of flour in there, okay? So something quite useful to check. But that's just about mixed in. Right, so the next bit we've got to add to our mixture is the chocolate chips. There wouldn't be chocolate chip cookies without chocolate chips. Now it does ask the recipe for 350 grams of chocolate chip. Now quite rightly so, Miss has suggested that you chop up chocolate bars. 350 grams is a lot to buy in chocolate chips. So if you chop up chocolate bars, it's much easier, and we're going to cook them anyway. So these are 100 grams each. So all I'm going to do is just chop them up into chunks. Right, so anybody who has guessed by now, I've got 4 chocolate bars at 100 grams each, and I only need 350. So this last one, I'm going to chop in half. And what a shame, that will mean I've got some chocolate left over to eat separately later. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need like 1 less bar there. There we go. Right, so chopping up chocolate bars. Milk chocolate is often quite soft. Don't take it directly out of the fridge to be able to do it, because that's going to make life a little bit hard as well. Use a nice strong knife, and you should be able to just cut through. You can see it's a lot of chocolate chip going into this recipe. Now, the recipe that Miss Forster supplies us with does say 100 grams of hazelnuts. So nuts aren't so popular in our house, so I'm using fudge chunks, so mine are going to be chocolate chip and the fudge recipe. It was also all they had left in Morrison's without any chocolate chips. I thought it would be quite a nice idea. So there we go, so I'm going to have some fudge chunks in mine as well. Oh, they smell good. Right, so here is our mixture, our dough so far. Pop in my fudge chunks. And then pop in my chocolate. There we go. Oh, look at that, there's still some quite large pieces there. Oh well. They will melt and there'll be a lovely mouthful. There we go. Now, this time I'm going to use my wooden spoon to mix them in. And I'm literally just going to turn them over in the mixture until it's all bound in. And you'll notice where I do it is I'm bringing the spoon around the outside each time and then pushing through the centre. It's really quite a tough mixture to work with, but that's good. That's what we want. And you see it's, with this much chocolate chip in it, it's really nice actually, because there's not an inch that hasn't got some chocolate chip in it somewhere. So there's not one cookie that's going to miss out on some chocolate chip or some fudge chunk in it, which is just what we're after. Right, now this next top tip is not something I've ever done making cookies before, so I'm hoping this is going to keep our cookies with that lovely soft centre. Miss Forster's advice is that we place 10 lumps onto a plate. I've got a feeling I might need a second plate. And we place them in the freezer before cooking them. So and it's just a heat dollop at a time. There we go. One. Make a bit more there. She says don't push them down, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep them nice and heat. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on that plate. I suspect I'm going to get another 2 plates like that, so we'll see how it goes, and I've got to get them in the freezer yet. So we really just want them to be a sort of toughened ball that's not as squidgy and runny as it was beforehand. I think that's the aim of what we're doing here. So I'm just going to use my spoon to scoop them up and place them onto my baking tray. You notice I've got a couple of baking trays ready because I know they do need to be spaced, because that essentially is going to melt and take up a lot more space than it does at the moment. So I reckon on this baking tray I'm probably going to get 6. I might get a few more on the one at the back. So I'm now going to place these into the oven. I'll just get my oven mitt ready. Right, okay, so I have my oven mitts to be able to put them in the oven. The oven's been preheating now for about 5-10 minutes. It's at 200. Now Miss Forster does recommend you put it as 180 and cook them for longer if you want them to be crispy, but I like mine soft in the middle, so I'm going to go with her first advice, which is 200 and 8 minutes, and then turn them, okay? So I'm going to put them. Okay. And I'm going to set my timer to 8 minutes. Right, so that's my timer telling me that the 8 minutes are up. They look really large, but you can see why she's just turned them around. They have sort of cooked on one side more than the others. So I'm going to move them around and place them back in. There you go, my one's squidged in a tray that's almost going to end up a chocolate brownie, I think, rather than cookies, but we'll see how we go. Right, as soon as I press the timer off again, mine goes off. So I'm going to press it and put on 4 minutes. There you go. Okay, and there's the final timer. Let's see what they're like. Oh, these look great. Now, the key recommendation is here. Although they look amazing, I have to wait now a further 20 to 30 minutes before I can eat them. They continue cooking on the tray and continue sort of setting once they've come out of the oven. So So I've got some hot plates to the side here, so I can't put my hot pan straight onto the work surface. Turn the oven off. There you go, just out of the oven. These still need about 20 minutes to actually set, and you can see how they're starting to collapse now, where they're cooling down. Okay, but I've left them on the hot trays, so the hot tray will help them continue cooking through as well. So I'll come back in 20 minutes and find out how amazing they really are. Right, so this is 20 minutes later, and you can see that they're coming off the tray absolutely perfectly. But just so you can see, oh, there you go. Oh, look at that melted chocolate in the centre and everything. Wow, so these are massive. The chocolate is still melted inside, and they are so tasty. Thank you so much. Nice recommendation.